Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1101. Here's a lotus root for you. Miss Xiao has misunderstood. There's no need to worry. The exquisite lotus is fine, it just missed you. Jun Moxie's words caused Xiaoying to suddenly blush. And she stared at him. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? This fellow. Saying he missed me as soon as he saw me. Miss Xiao seemed to have misunderstood again. What I meant was, the exquisite lotus has missed you. After all, you've raised it for such a long time. Jun Moxie said in an innocent manner. You. Xiaoying's face instantly turned somewhat white with anger. Dugu Xiaoyi instantly burst out in laughter. Big brother Moxie. You're acting like a hoodlum again. Jun Moxie's mouth twitched and he glared at her fiercely. How am I playing punk? Lass. Don't speak nonsense and confuse others. Otherwise, I won't go lightly on your but later. I was saying that the exquisite lotus had been apart from Miss Xiao for a long time. And naturally missed her. The exquisite lotus doesn't know how to talk. So I was just speaking on its behalf. How was that acting like a hoodlum? Speaking on a plant's behalf. To think that he actually managed to let those words out of his mouth. Xiaoying's face turned red again. And she snorted hatefully. Does the exquisite lotus miss me? You seem to understand the exquisite lotus very much. Ah. Isn't that so? Jun Moxie sighed emotionally. That exquisite lotus of yours is so intelligent. Ever since it came into my possession, it had been telling all the other plants about how good you are. Now, a lot of my spirit herbs have been touched by its words and are looking forward to meeting you. Hoping that you could be by their side forever. How nice would that be? Xiaoying didn't know if she should be angry or if she should laugh. This fellow was truly good with his tongue. To think that he could even say such things, was he coaxing a 3-year-old child? You said that you had many more spirit herbs. Where are they? From the time she saw that spirit ginseng, Xiaoying had already felt very impatient in her heart. Now, hearing Jun Moxie speaking like that, although she didn't quite believe his boasting, she could not help but to feel curious. For such precious treasures, they are naturally kept in the safest and the best place to take care of them. They're all in my bedroom. When are you going to see them? Young Master Jun asked in a somewhat shy manner. You despicable hoodlum. Xiaoying felt her breath choking in her chest. If his spirit herbs were kept in his bedroom, then by those words he said earlier. A lot of my spirit herbs are looking forward to meeting you, hoping that you could be by their side forever. Wouldn't that mean that she needed to be in his bedroom forever? Just like the spirit herbs? This pervert. Her, 2 beautiful ladies came here to celebrate for me today. How can this Jun let you leave empty-handed? It's just that the scale of this Jun's faction is not comparable to the size of the misty illusory manor or the Holy Lands. And our foundations are not as deep as well. So there's truly nothing good enough to take out. I can only treat each of you to a piece of lotus root each. May the 2 misses forgive me. Jun Moxie said with a slight smile. A piece of lotus root each? Did you think that your lotus roots are immortal pills? We came all this way just to eat your lotus root? The 2 ladies felt quite unhappy in their hearts. This fellow actually had the face to act poor in front of us. Everyone in the reception hall below was holding onto a stalk of austere heart orchid and a snow silkworm handkerchief. Even the misty illusory manor and the Holy Lands might not even be able to take these 2 things out. There were also the night illumination pearls. Fragrant tea herb. Spirit ginseng, Which of those were not rare treasures that could not be found in the world? With your wealth, you can still say that you are poor. Why don't you go and die instead? Qiao Ying and Miao Xiao Miao had already eaten the exquisite lotus root before, so they naturally knew that that thing was at most only the size of a peanut. Naturally, they could not be cut into pieces. So they thought that Jun Moxie was definitely going to take out an ordinary lotus root for them. Do we care about your dumb lotus root? Could your lotus root be better than the exquisite lotus root? Seeing the two girls remaining silent and were even staring at him angrily, Jun Moxie laughed and waved his hands, causing a large lotus root to appear in his palm. The lotus root was as thick as a fist and over a chi long. In terms of size, there were truly nothing spectacular about this lotus root. It was possibly even slightly smaller than a normal lotus root. The only thing was that this lotus root was pure jade white in color and translucent like a crystal, to the point where one could see through it to the other side. Also, the moment this crystalline lotus root appeared, the entire room was instantly filled with an indescribable refreshing fragrance. The smell of the ancient tea fragrance herb had lingered in this room for a long time, not dissipating. But as soon as the lotus root appeared, the smell instantly disappeared into the background, only leaving behind this refreshing scent. This intoxicating fragrance that was difficult to describe with words gave everyone an invigorating feeling when they smelt it. It was as if their souls had been cleansed. Qiao Ying's beautiful eyes suddenly widened to the limit, and her little mouth dropped to the ground. It was as if she had just seen an extremely unbelievable thing. Miao Xiao Miao was also stunned momentarily. However, she was still somewhat uncertain in her heart. It couldn't be right. How did it grow so big? But Qiao Ying had already screamed with shock. Exquisite lotus root? It's really the exquisite lotus root? Jun Moxie looked at her and nodded with a calm smile. It's really the exquisite lotus root? But how is that possible? After receiving the confirmation, Qiao Ying's body swayed slightly, as if she was on the verge of fainting. Using all her strength, she barely managed to control herself. However, she could not stop herself from rushing forward like a bolt of arrow. Let me see. How could this be? How could it be so big? Miao Xiao Miao was also stunned. This is an exquisite lotus root? This is too unbelievable, wasn't it? How could it be so big? Taking the huge lotus root from young Master Jun's hands, an agitated look filled Qiao Ying's face. This was undoubtedly the lotus root formed by the exquisite lotus. To actually reach such a size. After turning it around and examining carefully like a treasure, Qiao Ying's jade-white face turned redder and redder, and her breathing became more disorderly. To actually grow it so successfully. How did you do it? Qiao Ying hugged the lotus root tightly in her arms and asked in an expectant voice. Faced with that question, Jun Moxie only smiled lightly and did not reply. Seeing that, Qiao Ying instantly realized her mistake. How the other party had done it was his business. Why should he tell her? Especially with the current relationship between the evil monarch manor and the 3 holy lands. How could he tell her such important information? Thinking here, she smiled bitterly and shook her head. Forgive me. Although she did not stop asking further, her tone still contained an obvious hint of reluctance. Truthfully, there's nothing difficult about telling you. I happen to possess a piece of heaven-earth spirit vein by chance. Jun Moxie said with a warm smile. Using the heaven-earth spirit vein, I carved out a little pool into it, and using the heaven-earth spiritual chi from it to nurture the exquisite lotus, I managed to grow this exquisite lotus root. That's all there was to it. Qiao Ying instantly understood. Using a heaven-earth spirit vein to nurture the exquisite lotus would naturally be much more effective than growing it in a natural way. In fact, that was most likely the only way for such a large exquisite lotus root to be born. At the same time, Xiaoying also felt an unknown joy in her heart. There was actually no need for him to disclose this kind of secret information, but he still disclosed it to me. A person who is an outsider. That he possesses the heaven-earth spirit vein of legends. If this matter is known, even the people from the Heaven Saint Palace would be envious. If the news is leaked out, it would most likely result in huge amounts of trouble for them, and they might even turn into the common target of the entire pugilistic world. However, Jun Moxie had actually still told her this huge secret. Simply because she had asked. This was a huge amount of trust in her. Seeing Jun Moxie's warm gaze, Xiaoying's heart skipped a beat. Inexplicably, she felt a sense of happiness. That was a happiness that came from deep in her heart. Don't worry, I will keep this secret forever in my heart, never letting it be leaked. Xiaoying promised solemnly. Although her voice was low, it was filled with determination, as if she were swearing an oath. Even she did not realize the degree of sincerity she had said those words in. Jun Moxie chuckled and smiled lightly as he took the exquisite lotus root back. Using the flat of his right hand as a blade, he made a few slices on the lotus root. The exquisite lotus root was divided equally into 9 pieces. Shui Yan, bring these 2 slices to mother and grandfather. As for the remaining, each of you can have one. Jun Moxie waved his hand and the sliced pieces of lotus roots flew out, landing in front of everyone. Mei Shui Yan did not hesitate, directly nodding and left with 2 pieces. Once these things were cut open, it must be consumed as quickly as possible. Otherwise, if too much time passed, they would dissipate into the air completely. Even Mei Shui Yan would need to use her full speed and use her Xian Qi to wrap around the exquisite lotus root slices to prevent the energy from being lost. Filial piety was a basic value of all humans, and Jun Moxie's actions caused Xiaoying and Miao Xiao Miao to feel that this evil monarch was a very upright person. Xiaoying picked up the piece of exquisite lotus root before her and sucked in a deep breath of air. This single slice was already 10 times the size of the exquisite lotus roots that the Heaven Saint Palace had ever cultivated despite using a huge amount of time. Naturally, this lotus root's medicinal effects would not be ordinary as well. As for Miao Xiao Miao, she looked at the lotus root before her with some conflicted emotions. For her first time meeting him, how could she accept such a valuable gift? This was a truly priceless treasure. Ah! This was something that had a value that was equivalent to the 7-colored holy fruits. Just thinking about the arrogance of the rainbow holy tree back in the misty illusory manor, it was easy to imagine the preciousness of this thing. This. I can't accept it. Miao Xiao Miao thought for a long time and finally decided to reject the gift. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1102. My husband is better than yours. Aya, little sister Xiao Miao, what are you being so polite about? We're all sisters of the same family. Besides, you will be giving that fellow face by eating it. Quick, hurry up and eat. Dugu Xiao Yi urged. This lass had already swallowed her share in one gulp. It's not anything rare. Just a little piece of lotus root. What's there to reject? Jun Moxie looked at Miao Xiao Miao and said in a gentle voice. Everyone has already eaten theirs, so you should hurry and eat it as well. Otherwise, if too much time passes, this lotus root will simply dissipate into the air. That would really be considered wasting a heavenly treasure. Miao Xiao Miao's heart shivered, and she looked at the exquisite lotus in her hand. Indeed, the corners were already showing signs of melting apart. In that moment, she could not help but feel exceedingly conflicted in her heart. If I insist on not eating it, with his status, he will definitely not take the gift back. In that case, this thing would just melt and disappear, truly wasting it. From the looks of it, she had no choice but to owe this favor. Thinking here, she could not help but sigh lightly in her heart. This person was truly too overbearing, to not even allow others to reject the gifts he handed out. Left with no options, she could only put the lotus root in her mouth and bite down upon it. In that instant, she could feel an ice-cool energy flow through her throat, and her entire body felt invigorated in an instant. A copious amount of energy surged through her meridians. At the same time, everyone felt like their meridians had been expanded substantially. Furthermore, the flexibility and sturdiness of their meridians had been strengthened greatly after the ice-cool energy flowed through. Following that, the powerful energy flowed into their dantian and settled down. But everyone understood that this energy would not simply disappear like that. Instead, it would continue to protect their bodies. Even without the 7 colored holy fruits to activate the energy, the medicinal energy would persist and seep into every part of the body. But if the 7 colored holy fruits came into the picture, this energy would instantly be transformed into over 1,000 years' worth of pure energy. It was sufficient to let their cultivations improve greatly. After some time, Mei Shuayan had also returned. Everyone only consumed the exquisite lotus this time, but I suggest that you don't use the 7 colored holy fruit to activate the energy after you return. Instead, you should let it remain in your body to flow naturally, allowing it to transform your physique slowly. After waiting for around a year, the energy will truly become a part of you. If you consume the 7 colored holy fruits at that time, it would not affect these effects. This energy will even become something that would be slowly beneficial that could be felt throughout your life. Jun Moxie said seriously. And all the girls nodded rapidly. At this time, Miao Xiao Miao suddenly remembered Dugu Xiao Yi's words. We're all sisters of the same family. Besides, you will be giving that fellow face by eating it. Sisters of the same family? What were the meaning of those words? Could it be? Jun Moxie had some thoughts towards her. Those were very thoughtful words. Ah! As she thought here, Miao Xiao Miao felt a huge shock through her heart. At the same time, a strong sense of repulsion rose in her heart. If she knew about this in advance, she would rather have let the exquisite lotus root be wasted than to eat it. This Xiao Miao is extremely grateful to Lord Evil Monarch for the gift of the spirit herb. If there's a chance, I will come here with my husband to offer our thanks to Manor Lord Jun. Miao Xiao Miao bowed deeply and said to Jun Moxie. These words were naturally not to express her thanks, but to clarify a point. I'm already married. If you have any designs on me, it's better to dismiss the thought early. So it turns out that little sister Miao already has a person in your heart? And you're already married? Mei Shuayan looked at Miao Xiao Miao with a strange look in her eyes. An exceedingly queer look also hung on her face. It was as if she wanted to laugh, but she forcefully controlled herself. Hearing this question, Miao Xiao Miao suddenly began to think of her Mo Jun Xie again. Her face beaming with happiness, she nodded. Yes. My husband is extremely good to me. I'm the person he loves and cares for the most in this world. Ah, little sister Miao. That husband of yours, how does he look? Debauchee was exceptionally curious about what kind of look Jun Moxie had used in the misty illusory manner, and she excitedly leapt forward to ask. Miao Xiao Miao was somewhat at a loss for words. This lass was obviously much younger than her and was probably at least 2, 3 years younger. However, she could still thicken her face and call her little sister. Who knew where that form of address came from? My husband goes by the surname Mo. Miao Xiao Miao smiled and closed her eyes slightly, seemingly able to see her Mo Jun Xie standing in front of her and smiling at her. His figure is actually rather similar to Manor Lord Jun, but his looks are far from comparable. He could be said to look rather ordinary and slightly dark, not standing out. Miao Xiao Miao described with a smile. Her face was filled with a deep level of contentedness. So that fellow had pretended to be an ugly person. Debauchee thought in her heart. To pretend to be an ugly person and still manage to woo the top beauty of the misty illusory manor. Truly formidable. Although my husband is not particularly handsome, his personality and heart is exceptionally great. Furthermore, he's completely devoted to me. Miao Xiao Miao said in a happy voice. He's well learned and talented, and I even wonder if there's anything in this world that he doesn't have knowledge about. He's also a gentle and thoughtful person. As she spoke to hear, Miao Xiao Miao suddenly felt that the atmosphere had become somewhat strange. Looking up, she realized that this evil monarch had lowered his head and was rubbing his nose with a somewhat ugly expression on his face. There were even a thick look of jealousy on the other girls' faces. There's no use even if you are jealous. Jun Xie belongs to me. As she thought here, a sense of pride grew in Miao Xiao Miao's heart. My husband has a vast amount of talent, and he'd even written many poems to me, composing songs and writing lyrics as well. Miao Xiao Miao were already beginning to show off. What? Wrote poems for you? Composed songs? Wrote lyrics? The girls' voices grew louder and louder, as if they were incomparably envious. At the same time, the smell of vinegar in the room had become even stronger. That's right. The sense of pride in Miao Xiao Miao's words was growing stronger and stronger as she nodded with great satisfaction. On the day that I was engaged with him, it was also the day I had my heavenly tribulation for the venerable realm. When I was unable to bear the heavenly tribulation, it was my husband who disregarded his own life to accompany me. After that, he proposed to me on the spot with a poem. I still remember that poem to this day. I've spoken wrongly. Those words are the oath between us. I will never forget it in this lifetime. Oath? Poem? What poem? The girl's eyes were blazing with fire at this point. That fellow had also accompanied us to pass through the heavenly tribulation before. How come there were no poems? Why didn't he display his vast amounts of talents? Over 10 large white eyes instantly riveted on Jun Moxie's body. Young Master Jun felt the hairs on the back of his neck standing on its ends. Looking at Miao Xiao Miao, he cursed under his breath. My dearest great aunt, why are you still speaking? Are you trying to drown them in vinegar? At that time, he asked me. With the heavens as our blanket, and the earth as our bed, the wind as delicacies, rain as wine, the clouds will be our wedding decoration and the mist our witness. The thunder shall be our betrothal gifts, and the lightning the matchmaker. Miao Xiao Miao, are you willing to be my woman in this life? Miao Xiao Miao naturally could not hear what Jun Moxie was saying in his heart, and she directly recounted the entire poem word for word, in a gentle and dreamy voice. Do you know? My entire heart simply melted in that moment. Feck. If it were me, I would have melted as well. All the girls thought with jealousy. Just hearing that poem had already caused these girls to feel a warm and drunk feeling in their hearts. What kind of romantic situation was that? Ah. You may have melted, but our hearts are almost shattered. Woo woo, this heartless fellow. Young Master Jun's face turned a strange shade of green, and he was almost on the verge of collapsing. Miss Miao Ah. Please stop reminiscing. You need to leave some mercy with your tongue. Ah. Are you trying to take the little life of your dearest Jun Xie? Unfortunately for him, Miao Xiao Miao was not going to stop. She was originally saying this to stop him from having any ideas about her. So why would she stop now? If that fellow decided to go to the misty illusory manor and stubbornly ask for her hand in marriage, using his status, and the more troubling part was, the misty illusory manor might even agree. We were in the middle of a heavenly tribulation, and lightning was streaking across the sky, and the earth was rumbling. The rain was falling heavily, and the winds were howling madly. Black clouds covered the entire sky, but even with that kind of weather, and the dangerous situation, I didn't feel anything, except bliss and a feeling of security. Miao Xiao Miao had obviously returned back to the mood at that time as she smiled in a contented manner. At that time, I thought that even if I were to die in that moment, it would be worth it. As a woman, to have a person who loves you stick by your side through life and death, especially a person who she loves as well. That kind of happiness is truly enough to last for a lifetime. Feck. If it were us, we would find it worth even if we died as well. The girls had become even more jealous now, and their eyes looked like they were ready to swallow Jun Moxie whole. Young Master Jun coughed hoarsely, and a layer of sweat formed on his forehead. I'm dead. I'm dead, this time. I'm really going to die for sure. Feeling the sharp gazes of everyone on him, young Master Jun's heart shivered. My lovely Xiao Miao Ah. You've killed your husband this time. Who would have thought that we would actually come out alive after the tribulation? From then on, I swore to myself that I would spend life and death beside my husband for the rest of my life, never leaving or forsaking him. Miao Xiao Miao sounded like she was swearing an oath. And, if I may ask a little further, your husband, what is his cultivation level at? Dugu Xiao Yi nodded and asked. Nobody knew what other strange ideas she was hatching this time. Him? His current cultivation is not high, only at the golden Xian level. Miao Xiao Miao replied. Her voice suddenly turned proud. But it's because he didn't have a good teacher before this, and he began cultivating late. However, my husband has the rare free and natural physique that had only appeared once in the past 10,000 years. Once he starts to rise, he would be unstoppable. Kiki, the 9 Nether first young master, had exactly this same free and natural physique. In the history of the entire misty illusory manor, there have only been 2 people with the free and natural physique before. My husband, and the 9 Nether first young master. Even our misty illusory manor has great hopes that Jun Xie would be the next 9 Nether first young master, and also the only person in the past 10,000 years who has the chance to surpass the 9 Nether first young master. Afraid that the rest would not know how amazing the free and natural physique was, Miao Xiao Miao specially explained it for them. So it's the free and natural physique of the legends. Ah. Dugu Xiao Yi turned and glared fiercely at Jun Moxie. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1103. The vinegar vats are all overturned. Looking at Jun Moxie, Miao Xiao Miao felt somewhat guilty in her heart. because she knew that no matter how much effort Mo Jun Xie put in, this evil monarch before her had already moved far ahead of him. A 19 years old Saint Venerable. The lord of the evil monarch manor. The evil monarch. All the fame and power. In addition to his age, there was no doubt that he would be a legend in this world. Even if Mo Jun Xie had the legendary free and natural physique, he still started way too late. To even reach Jun Moxie's current cultivation, he would still need at least another 100 years. At that time, the world would be completely different. But I won't let my Jun Xie compare with this fellow. This Jun Moxie is no doubt a huge playboy. He already has so many great beauties by his side, and he still wants to have designs on me. Miao Xiao Miao thought angrily. As her thoughts traveled here, she suddenly felt that Mo Jun Xie was much better than Jun Moxie. How devoted is my Jun Xie, whether it is towards that elder sister, or to me. I truly envy you. Guan Qinghan said lightly. Those words were truly from her heart. Miao Xiao Miao smiled and shook her head. Elder sister Guan is too nice. Who doesn't know what manner Lord Jun did for you that time? Using his frail strength to stand up against the Shui Han manor and even challenge the entire Tianxiang. Not hesitating to kill even if blood flowed like a river. Elder sister Guan. To have a man go so far for you. You are even more worthy of my envy. Hearing this, Guan Qinghan's expression also softened considerably. Thinking back to what Jun Moxie had done back then, she felt a warmth surge through her heart. Looking at Jun Moxie, her eyes filled with emotion. It was him who changed her hard and painful existence and given her happiness. As a woman, what else does she still have to be unhappy about? The envious gazes of the crowd suddenly shifted to Guan Qinghan. Little sister Xiao Miao, your husband even composed a song for you. Could you let us hear it? All of us sisters know a bit about music and have some accomplishment in it. This sentence from Mei Shuiyan was clearly to create some trouble for Jun Moxie. From the looks of it, only Ling Meng, Guan Qinghan, and Han Yan Meng knew something about music. As for the other girls, they didn't have much interest in such stuff. Dugu Xiao Yi was an extremely active person who could not sit still to learn music. Furthermore, she was born in a military family and knew more about wielding spears and swords. As for Kor, if young Master Jun had transmigrated a few years earlier, he might have managed to groom her into a talented girl proficient in literature and the arts. But unfortunately, Jun Moxie had come too late, neglecting her. In addition, this lass had been bent on being a helping hand to him, so whenever she had any extra time, she would spend it on cultivation. Where would she have the time to learn about music? Shuiyan. Jun Moxie looked helplessly at Mei Shuiyan and said in a pleading voice. What are you calling me for? Before this, us sisters still felt that you were an acceptable person. But the moment there's someone to compare with, it's easy to see which one is the trash. For the sake of fairness, you better go and compose a poem and write a song for each of us sisters. Look at other people's husbands. So talented and devoted. If you can't do it, you should understand the consequences very well yourself. Mei Shuiyan said huffily. With a loud gulping sound, Jun Moxie collapsed onto the chair and leaned there in a lifeless manner. That's right. Big brother Moxie. You must write for us as well. If you can't do it, or if you can't write it well, Kiki. Dugu Xiao Yi also snarled and threatened. Sisters, this kind of matter cannot be rushed, as the saying goes. Everyone has his weak points as well as his strong ones. Everyone has different things that they are good at. If Manor Lord Jun is not good in this area, there's no point forcing it. The literary arts and cultivation are both reliant heavily on talent. Miao Xiao Miao smiled gleefully and jumped out to save the situation. One needs to have a long period of practice and nurturing, as well as very deep refined background. There's a need for extensive research. And to be proficient in all areas, her sisters. There's no need to force him too much. It wouldn't be good if Manor Lord Jun is put in a difficult position. Jun Moxie held his face in his hands in a pained manner as he curled up on the chair like a boiled shrimp. Heavens, is this still called persuasion? Little sister Xiao Miao, there's no need for you to be too concerned about this matter. If Moxie can't do it, we also can't do much to this evil monarch. At most, we can only ignore him. Mei Shuayan smiled lightly and said, "How about we listen to the song little sister Xiao Miao's husband wrote for her first? We are not unreasonable people, so we'll just set that as our benchmark." Sisters, what do you think about that? Great idea. I'll go and get the qin. Dugu Xiao Yi stood up with a whoosh sound and ran out. Use the song that my Jun Yi had written as a benchmark? Looks like this evil monarch is in trouble. Miao Xiao Miao looked sympathetically at Jun Moxie, but her heart was bursting with glee. Brat, your Xian cultivation and your status is high, but compared to my Jun Yi, how can you be a match? You dare to have designs on this young miss? See if I don't play you to death. Miao Xiao Miao had already decided that when the qin is brought out later, she would definitely do her best and bring out her best standard. It would be best if she could make this Jun Moxie suffer a little. Dugu Xiao Yi's speed was extremely fast, and in a short moment, the pitter-patter of her footsteps could already be heard as she brought out an ancient-looking qin. Everyone looked towards Jun Moxie, their eyes cold and unsympathetic. If disasters came from nature, something could be done to counter them, but if they were of one's own making, one was done for. Right now, young Master Jun was exactly a person who was done in by a disaster of his own making. Jun Moxie sighed heavily, his breath filled with lamentation. Dear heavens, great earth, why is my life so bitter? Miao Xiao Miao sat before the qin and plucked at the strings, causing a bright sound to ring out. Good qin. Miao Xiao Miao's eyes lit up as she gasped. This ancient qin was even better than the one she had back in the misty illusory manor. This qin is made with dragon resonating wood, and the strings are made with the tendons of the violet dragon of the ocean depths, intertwined with the silk of the snow silkworms. The materials were gathered by Moxie and it was handcrafted by me. Guan Qinghan said with a slight smile. Elder sister Guan is indeed an amazing genius. Miao Xiao Miao looked at Guan Qinghan with respect in her eyes. To be able to play the qin was nothing difficult. As long as one was a young lady from the aristocratic families, they would know how to play. But the art of crafting the qin was a completely different matter. To be able to craft a set of musical instrument like this with great acoustics, beauty, and accuracy was something that was exceedingly difficult. Please forgive the minor skills of this little sister. Miao Xiao Miao sucked in 2 deep breaths and lightly ran her jade-like fingers across the chords, causing a beautiful sound to ring out. The musical notes began to fall into place, and the crowd felt as if they could see flowers falling from the sky, covering the earth. Song of the Burial of Flowers. The sound of the qin began to rise. This was just the beginning of the song, and Guan Qinghan and the rest were already lost in the beautiful melody. Flowers fade and fly, and flying fill the sky. Meow xiao meow sang lightly, her voice drifting with the sound of the qin. The image of Mo Jun Xie's voice and his smile appeared before her once again, and she only felt a sweet feeling filling her heart. This sad and dowdy song of the burial of flowers had actually turned into a song filled with happiness and contentment when sung by her. With her heart blooming with happiness like that, she naturally gave a different spirit to this tune. The original mood of the song was gone, but even so, this was already sufficient. A moment later, the sound of qin died down and disappeared. A patch of silence hung in the entire room, and only the lingering sound of the music remained in everyone's ears. After a long time, Mei Shuayan sighed heavily and said, "What is the name of this song?" "Song of the Burial of Flowers." Miao Xiao Miao replied. "This song, was it really, composed by your husband for you?" Although Guan Qinghan, who had a deep knowledge about music, was filled with praises for the song, she also found something strange about it. This song is undoubtedly a classic piece, but, for it to be written by a man who loves his wife deeply, it's somewhat unlikely. Miao Xiao Miao's face turned red, and she couldn't reply. This song had indeed been written by Mo Jun Xie, but it was only written for the sake of the competition at that time. How was it written for her? Initially, she had boasted like that because she wanted to ward off the perverted evil monarch. But who would have thought that the sharp-eared Guan Qinghan would have such high understanding of music that she could even tell the original meaning of the song even though she had already changed its mood when she played it? This question had truly stumped her. Just as Guan Qinghan had said, this song was definitely not the kind of song that lovers write for each other. The girls exchanged knowing looks and smiled. Although they didn't know the exact reasons, they would not pursue the matter. And because of this rendition, the animosity of the crowd towards young Master Jun had lessened greatly. As long as this song was not written directly for somebody else, everything could be discussed. Following that, the crowd asked a few more questions, and requested for Miao Xiao Miao to recite the poem that Jun Moxie had composed as well. Miao Xiao Miao instantly sat up excitedly. She was naturally excited to have the chance to showcase the talents of her husband in front of her new friends. When the poem "The Rogue-Colored Tear" rang out, all the girls were stunned. Numerous pairs of large beautiful eyes swiveled towards Jun Moxie in an instant. Who would have thought that this #1 debauchee of Tianxiang was such a cultured person? But the most unforgivable thing was, there were so many girls at home. But not only was he not making any efforts to make them happy, he even displayed such a strong performance when wooing girls outside. Could it be that the flowers grown at home were really incomparable to the wild flowers found outside? Or perhaps it's the thinking that the girls at home had already been locked down and would not run away, which was why there wasn't that much need to pay as much effort. Truly intolerable. This hidden skill that young Master Jun had shown was enough to thoroughly enrage the crowd. The anger that had just subsided slightly had risen to a new peak once again. When the poem, "Though man bow and live according to the will of the heavens, they might beget no salvation. Those who defy the heavens should look to the skies and laugh. Who can be like me, creating great billows in the world with a point of my sword? The sun and moon are in my arms. Watch as I rise above the crowd with my excellence." The rage of the crowd soared to an uncontrollable extent in an instant. Unable to sit still any longer, young Master Jun could only resort to the last method in the 36 stratagems. That. Miss Miao. Can we talk for a moment? Jun Moxie gestured weakly. He was already finished. This time, the vinegar vat had been completely overturned. "I have no interest in talking with you." Miao Xiao Miao snorted and turned away, clearly not intending to bother with him. "Ha! What do you want to talk to little sister Meow for? Are there any important matters that cannot be said in front of us sisters? If you want to talk with her, that's fine. But you have to pay up the debt that you owe to us sisters first. Mei Shuayan said emotionlessly, her two eyes staring unrelentingly at him. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1104. This is how the greatest poet is born. Qiao Ying watched the spectacle with a smile. Oh, this, that. Jun Moxie wrecked his brain. Looks like I'll have to plagiarize significantly today. Shui Yan is right. Then I shall compose a poem for you first. Shui Yan. Jun Moxie cleared his throat. All the women looked at him expectantly. Naturally, there were a few that were gloating at his demise. Like Miao Xiao Miao, for example. Currently, she practically cackling away in her head. You, a fighter, dare to say that you know how to write poems? You're probably capable of producing an incongruous limerick. I am determined to watch you make a fool out of yourself today. How dare you think of comparing yourself to my Jun Xie? I got it. Shui Yan is generosity and magnanimity has given me an inspiration. Jun Moxie took a couple of steps and snapped his fingers. The colored clouds are her flowing robes. The flowers. Her face that glimmers in the bright spring dew. If you do not see her atop the jade mountains, you'll find her beneath the moonlight of paradise. All the women were stunned. Miao Xiao Miao was stunned to the point of silence. Could it be that this Jun Moxie is really a demon? He had only took that brief moment to think. Took 3 steps and came up with this poem. And such a meaningful one. That was extremely compatible with Mei Shuayan's status and grace. This flair in poetry is not necessarily any inferior than my Jun Xie. No. This should be a coincidence. It definitely is by chance. All right. It's Qing Han's turn. Mei Shuayan hurried. Mei Shuayan was the first to get the praise from her lover. And it was such a beautiful poem that will last for the ages. So she was fully satisfied. Her blissfulness showing on her face. Qing Han's. For Qing Han. I got it. Jun Moxie pretended to frown and walked 2 rounds before snapping his fingers again. I got it. A name that matches her country-toppling beauty. So beautiful that the Lord smiles upon the sight of her, dissolving the endless frustrations of her Lord. Her company erasing all troubles. Everyone's eyes widened. To think that Jun Moxie had this trick up his sleeves. The 2 sentences of dissolving the endless frustrations of her Lord. Her company erasing all troubles was truly too compatible with that unique elegance and worry-free nature of Guan Qing Han. A talent. Ah. Small stars appeared in the eyes of all the girls. Dugu Xiao Yi was the only female present who watched Jun Moxie come up with a poem before. It was during the Gifted Scholars Autumn Festival feast back then. But thinking back on the poem that Jun Moxie had created, even Dugu Xiao Yi felt embarrassed. Listen to me, 'cause I speak with passion. Ugly ones won't do. Don't tell me you love me. I'm too bad. Don't be infatuated with this elder brother. This elder brother is a legend. Don't provoke me. I'll make you spit blood. That was also called a poem? That was just trash that was not even worthy of being heard. It was just utter bullshit. So Dugu Xiao Yi had never expected that one day, Jun Moxie would be capable of producing a poem, even if it was a limerick. Today, when faced with all these, Dugu Xiao Yi's mouth could only hang wider and wider. Until she couldn't help but rub at her eyes. This Is this really Jun Moxie? I'm not dreaming. Am I? Miao Xiao Miao also rubbed her eyes. This is too shocking. If she insisted that the previous poem was by chance, maybe it was still believable. But the second poem had been produced. Could it still be a coincidence? Finally, under the expectation and pressure of all the women present, Jun Moxie composed poems for every single beauty present before he finally managed to quell this wave of resentment. Even Xiao Ying received a poem from Jun Moxie. There is a beauty in the northern country. A solitary existence. A glance of hers topples the capital. Another gaze topples the country. Yet one would rather lose his empire, for it is difficult to find another beauty like her. Everyone was happy. Everyone looked at Jun Moxie with admiration in their eyes. Too amazing. Too awesome. So many poems were churned out in a blink of an eye, and every single one of them was a classic among classics. Even the number one poet in the world did not have a talent like this. Ah! Truly, the greatest poet. Ah! Had Jun Moxie known what they were thinking, he would be depressed. So the greatest poets were forced into existence like this. Only Miao Xiao Miao was a little gloomy in the midst of her admiration. Why is this fellow so talented? He looks so girly, and have no sense of masculinity. Yet he is so talented at poetry. The heavens are really blind. Had Jun Moxie known what Miao Xiao Miao was thinking, he would have vomited blood like crazy. I only look slightly more handsome. Which part of me is girly? How can I not be masculine? Seeing how all the women were looking at young Master Jun in admiration, full of happiness and satisfaction, Miao Xiao Miao felt indignant and couldn't help but roll her eyes. Is there a need to admire him this much? He only know how to create some lines. How can he compare to my Jun Yi, who even knows music? As she mulled in her thoughts, her fingers gently plucked at the strings of the zither, a longing look in her eyes. Jun Yi, where are you? Do you know how I'm missing you? How nice would it be if you could come over right now and stomp the arrogance of this evil monarch a little? And also let these girls know that my Jun Yi is the best. This sudden sound of the instrument pulled the girls back to their senses. He managed to fool his way through for poetries. But what about songs? Where is the song for each of us? This fellow had composed a song for Miao Xiao Miao. No! That is unforgivable. The jealousy of women was extremely terrifying. Although all the girls already knew that the song was not specially composed by Jun Moxie for Miao Xiao Miao, but as long as they already believed firmly on something, if she said that you did it. Even if you didn't. So, Jun Moxie was just enjoying the admiration gleefully when he was denounced again. Composing a song. And it was the same rule. One for each person. This request left young Master Jun practically vomiting blood. You have all heard so many poems. You must be tired of it. Let me go and take a look at what Tang Yuan is doing, so this fellow doesn't wreck our evil monarch manor. Jun Moxie found a random reason and wanted to slip away, but Mei Shuayan blocked his exit. Then, Duge Xiao Yi and the rest all rushed over and completely blocked the entire way out. Thinking of leaving? Fat hope. No way. Looking at all these queens that are blocking the door, young Master Jun could only smile bitterly and yell internally. Help ah! All my dear beauties, please have mercy. Composing songs is not that easy. It is not like eating cabbages. I must have some inspiration no matter what, and some time to slowly materialize it, then refine it and come out with a few drafts before it can be heard. You don't know the difficulty of composing ah. Jun Moxie said with a bitter expression. Jun Moxie was putting on a sorrowful act, hoping that he could get the understanding of all the women. But things didn't turn out contrary to the way one wished. Not only did his pitiful act not get any pity, it only added fuel to the fire. All the women got even more aggressive, all their faces turning red. Jun Moxie was completely confused. Ah. So Brother Moxie despised the fact that I don't know songs. So you have never spoke to me about it. Ah. No wonder you don't have the interest to compose songs in front of me. Debauchee said with a pout, her eyes welling up with tears, as if she were about to cry any moment. Young Master Jun was dumbfounded. What did I say? What did I say? I didn't say anything ah. What else needs to be said? We all don't know what is the difficulty of composing songs ah. We only know how to eat cabbages. How envious of Sister Meow. Ah. She has such a doting husband. Both of them have the same interests. That is what I call a perfect pair ah. Say no more. We all understand already. Mei Shuayan said in an eccentric manner. Looks like Great Beauty Mei is determined to ruin things today. Jun Moxie was not only dumbfounded. He was practically about to break down. Where is this coming from? That is not what I meant ah. Aren't you giving me a wrongful death? Miao Xiao Miao quickly tried to mediate. Elder sisters. What Manor Lord Jun said is a fact. Inspiration is most important when it comes to composing. If there is no inspiration, even the greatest prodigy cannot do anything about it. So it is because he does not have any inspiration around us. Ah. Why does Sister Meow's husband have all that inspiration? Looks like it must be because they both have a good relationship ah. Han Yen Meng said sulkingly, clicking her tongue. Jun Moxie was completely defeated and utterly depressed. He begged for mercy. This thing is really not something that will come with pressure ah. Even if I am an immortal. Dearest ladies. Spare me some mercy ah. It was not that difficult for young Master Jun to come out with songs. There were plenty of classics that he remembered. But right now, it was not the time to allow this bunch of women to gang up and get their way. Otherwise, if they randomly come seeking for a song, then he would still run out of available songs sooner or later. Besides, showing too much in one go made everything less precious. Ah. None of the women were bothered seeing young Master Jun's exasperation. But all their gazes fell onto Guan Qinghan. When it came to composing song lyrics, Guan Qinghan could be said to be one of the experts. Even better than Jun Moxie, this expert who plagiarized works. Right now, everyone was willing to hear her opinion. Guan Qinghan was not like the other women earlier, joining forces to attack young Master Jun. There was no other reason. She was in deep thoughts because of something Miao Xiao Miao said. Thinking about the feelings Jun Moxie had to her, and his love towards her. She instantly jolted back to her senses upon the gaze of all the girls. She said gently, Dear sisters, what Moxie said is not wrong. Be it writing lyrics, poems, or paintings, any quality work requires inspiration. Moxie may be talented, but he has already composed so many poems for us earlier. Forcing him to compose is making things difficult for him. Even if he is able to come up with something, it will definitely be a substandard piece of work, which is as good as not coming up with it. So I hope you will reconsider. Guan Qinghan didn't usually open her mouth to speak, but the moment she did, there would always be meaning to her words. Everyone became more rational after hearing her. After a discussion, they still came up with one request. It was indeed too demanding to make him compose a song for everyone. But he still had to compose one. And it must make everyone satisfied. If it was not good enough, he had to recompose it until everyone was pleased. We mustn't lose to Miao Xiao Miao's great husband, Mo Jun Xie, no matter what. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1105. Leaving you in awe. Miao Xiao Miao watched expectantly, gloating at Jun Moxie's circumstances. The more Jun Moxie excelled, the more irritated she felt. She absolutely must see him embarrassed. Miao Xiao Miao was Jun Moxie's woman. She was unaware of it, but young Master Jun was definitely well aware of this. Thus the way he looks at Miao Xiao Miao was different from others. But it was precisely this indecent look that landed him in this state. Had young Master Jun known that this was the root of his misfortune today, he would probably be extremely regretful and feel extremely indignant. But she's clearly my wife. And we've already done that. So why can't I look? Where is the justice in this? Is there still justice around? All right. I shall compose a song for you all then. Let you all know my prowess. Looks like you all won't know how impressive and unrivaled your husband is if I don't leave you in awe. The current circumstances were truly unfavorable after all. So composing a song was the best solution right now. Thus, Jun Moxie could only concede. But Jun Moxie brought up his condition. I have to make it clear that there is only going to be one song. If you still wish for it, it'll require a long time and accumulation of inspiration. Fine. All the women agreed simultaneously, no longer making it difficult for him. Actually, the girls were all aware that it was a long process for a song to be composed. The reason why they were so unrelenting earlier was purely out of jealousy. It was already an unexpected joy to be able to force him to compose a song today. Even if this song was not impressive, they'd just let him pass. How could they make him really recompose a song if it wasn't well done? Miao Xiao Miao was caught off guard seeing that he was really going to compose a song on the spot. Jun Xie took such a long time to do it. If Jun Moxie was able to compose a song and write its lyrics on the spot, even if it was slightly sloppy, it was still truly impressive. But does this fellow really have this capability? I still harbor doubts on this. If he really skimp on his work, I'll definitely point it out. And influence his wives to pressure him to redo it until everyone is satisfied, to even think of comparing himself to my Jun Xie. If it is composing just one song, it is possible. It is just that before I start it, I need to tell you guys a short story. Because this song was inspired by this story. Jun Moxie naturally had to lay the context in place first. A long time ago, there was a young scholar called Liang Shanbo. In order to participate in the imperial exams, he entered the academy to study. The inspiration that struck him this time was butterfly lovers. After all, that song of the burial of flowers was beautifully desolate in its lyrics and meaning, and it was rare to find another tune that was comparable to Song of the Burial of Flowers aside from Butterfly Lovers. Naturally, there were plenty of other classics from his previous life that were comparable, but Jun Moxie could no longer remember that many. In his despair, Liang Shanbo fell ill, vomited blood and died. In the end, when Zhu Tai walked before Liang Shanbo's grave, suddenly, the grave opened with a clap of thunder and swallowed Zhu Tai. Colorful mists emerged from inside. When it cleared, two butterflies fluttered out freely together. And inside the grave, both their corpses were gone. It turned out that the love of this couple who was so deeply in love had moved the heavens that they transformed into butterflies to spend all eternity together. When Jun Moxie was done with the story, he could hear sobbing and sniffing around him. Turning around, he noticed that the eyes of all the women are red and teary. Even Xiaoying and Mei Shuiyan. This tune is composed according to this story. It shall be then named Transformation into Butterflies. Jun Moxie slowly sat down before the zither and began to pluck at the strings. This song was ideally performed using a violin, but the logic in music was universal, so it was not entirely impossible to play it using a qin. It was just that the sound of the violin would automatically come out natural, poignant, sad, and beautiful cadence, whereas playing with a qin would come off somewhat too clear and melodious. The green grass and flowers bloom and flourish. Colorful butterflies flutter about back and forth in pairs. A deep love that lasts for all eternity. Shanbo loves Zhuing Tai forever. Jun Moxie sang along with the sounds of the qin. Spending 3 years studying together, sitting side by side without the slightest suspicion, expressing their love to each other when they were 18. Who knew that parting was at the tower? All the women felt as if they could see the images along with his singing. A man and a woman meet each other in an academy. That girl was dressed as a male, but the man was completely unaware, until when they had to bid farewell that he learnt of her identity. Reluctantly bidding farewell, making the promise of eternity, a perpetual love, then parting ways without a choice. Not knowing that after this parting, their dream would never be fulfilled. This farewell was an eternal parting. Shanbo's marriage proposal was rejected by the Zhu family. He fell into despair after he returned home, and after hearing that the Zhu family had set a marriage engagement with the Ma family. In his distraught, he fell ill and died. After Ying Tai heard that Shanbo died because of her, she was filled with anguish and swore never to marry. Alas! Fate loves to toy with men. The powerful and influential Ma family came forth to take their bride. For her family's sake, without a better choice, Ying Tai sat on the sedan chair with resentment. When they passed by Shanbo's grave, Zhu Ying Tai stubbornly insisted on getting off the sedan chair to pay her respects. Due to Ying Tai's deep grief, heavy rain poured and there was a loud clap of thunder and the grave mysteriously opened. Ying Tai leapt into and it closed back again. When the winds and rain stopped, the couple transformed into butterflies and flutter about freely in the world. Jun Moxie had definitely underestimated the might of this song. The helplessness of this song, transformation into butterflies, was difficult for anyone in Jun Moxie's previous life to understand, even though they continued to pass the story of their devoted love on. But it was very different now. Guan Qing Han, Han Yen Meng, Miao Xiao Miao, Dugu Xiao Yi. Which one of these girls were not the daughters of some influential family? Which one of them didn't know the helplessness and lack of options for a girl in such a family? In this world, more than 90% of the daughters of influential families had to sacrifice for the sake of their family's interests, becoming a tool for drawing benefiting connections. Two families were celebrating for the benefit gained out of their alliance through marriage. But who cared about the kind of life the girl would have to lead after marrying over? How did they feel? You were the family's daughter. The family had provided you with food and shelter. So naturally you had to do your part for the family. Even if she was unhappy after her marriage, she could only let out a long sigh. But what this sigh did was to destroy the happiness that a girl had longed for her entire life. In this era, interest dictated everything. This was the most common tragedy for those with such backgrounds during this period. Some people criticized that women always submitted themselves to such pressure, but they had never thought of why did the girl concede? Because her parents were in the family. How can one forget their gratitude to their parents? There were such families in present-day China. Girls who were leading this sort of life, love, kinship, which was more important? It was a question that would never have an answer. Guan Qinghan could be said to have the most personal experience of this. Even Miao Xiao Miao. If not for the spiritual herbal gardens and her repute of a prodigy and meeting Mo Junyi, she was destined to not be able to escape from such a fate. And Han Yen Meng. This lass had already become the sacrificial object of this political marriage. It was just that she was more fortunate that her partner was a person she liked, but it was very rare to be as lucky as her. And even the carefree Dugu Xiao Yi. If she had never met Jun Moxie and only remained admiring him from afar, her future marriage was definitely not something she would be able to decide on her own. Dugu Xiao Yi still used all sorts of methods and ways and put up all sorts of resistance before getting her family's approval of the matter between her and Jun Moxie. On this matter, everyone witnessed Dugu Xiao Yi's willfulness and stubbornness. But who had ever thought if Dugu Xiao Yi had not been this willful and not made such a big fuss so recklessly, then how would it have ended for these two people? With the impression and attitude the Dugu family had of Jun Moxie and taking into consideration of the political state of Tianxiang, they would definitely not allow this marriage alliance between the Jun family and the Dugu family. Then, with Jun Moxie's temper, would he take the initiative to fight for it? Had Dugu Xiao Yi not relinquished all the reservations of a female, not put in so much effort, only a tragedy awaited her. So this transformation into butterflies had struck the sorest spot of all the women of this era. In fact, the legend of the butterfly lovers was a stand the people of the past had against this sort of marriage where they had no way out. Or perhaps, even an extravagant hope. Even if they could not be husband and wife when they were alive, they also wanted to transform into butterflies and dance together even after death. Instead of calling it a beautiful devotion, it was more of a dream one had when they were helpless and in despair. But everyone who was unable to be with the one they loved all hoped for this dream to become a reality. Lovers finally being together as they wished had always been the most beautiful legend throughout time. The greatest wish. But from ancient times until now, how many pairs of lovers were truly able to do this? As Guan Qinghan listened, she suddenly remembered Murong Xiao Xiao and Yi Gu Han. Her eyes reddened and her tears began to fall uncontrollably. Weren't these two people just like the butterfly lovers? Or even, they were even less fortunate than the butterfly lovers? If not for Jun Moxie, they were destined to not even have their dream of being buried together fulfilled. That romantic legend, I shall give up on the heavens, but not on my beloved. It's a pity that for that dream to be fulfilled, there was a condition, that their affinity did not end it in the next life. Because they know that it was destined that there would be no hope in this lifetime. So they could only entrust their hopes into the next life, but how obscure was that? Even Miao Xiao Miao was deeply affected. She was extremely well versed in music. So naturally she had a deeper experience of the entire song. The song ended. After a long while, no one spoke, and only the sounds of repressed sobbing could be heard. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1106. I already have a husband. The old man was an exceptional assassin himself. But all the orphans he had trained, including Jun Moxie himself, the manner, method, and means he employed, was he really training assassins? Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. But Jun Moxie would never have the opportunity to get the answer to this question anymore. But he was ultimately firm on one thing. Even if they were sick of being an assassin, one day, All those who had gone through the old man's training would be able to live well, no matter which profession they turned into. That freakish strictness of the old man, that abusive manner of supervision had made all of them learn too many things. And all knowledge was accompanied by unforgettable pain. So even if they wished to forget it, they couldn't. These were all things that had been branded deep into the soul. When they go out there for real, they'll realize that there were so many things that they are capable of doing, capable of accomplishing well. In fact, before Jun Xie, there were some seniors who had mentioned to the old man that they didn't want to be an assassin anymore. They wanted to settle down peacefully and lead a normal life. Jun Moxie had never found out how the old man settled that bunch of people. And the old man had never brought it up before. But the old man had worn an odd expression back then. But after a period of time, under Jun Xie's intentional investigation, he realized that all the information on those people, their profile, the missions they had carried out, everything related to their past as an assassin, had all vanished without a trace. What did this mean? What did it ultimately mean? Was it all completely erased? Or were they thoroughly destroyed? But there was one thing for sure: as long as those things no longer existed, there was no one else who would be able to dig out any evidence of their past crimes. At the very least, they no longer had to live on the edge for their lives. Jun Moxie let out a long sigh. Old man, what kind of person are you exactly? Then, Jun Moxie opened his eyes only to realize the gaze of the 7 women were all fixated on him. Even Miao Xiao Miao and Xiaoying as well. In all their beautiful eyes were looks of surprise, disbelief, and great admiration. Brother Moxie. Dugu Xiaoyi's voice was still quivering as she spoke. This song is really good. I cried from listening to it. That's right. Ah. All the women began to discuss it enthusiastically. Only Guan Qinghan and Miao Xiao Miao picked up a piece of paper, as if they were trying to record something down. Obviously, they were recording down this transformation into butterflies. It was a regrettable matter if a meaningful and beautiful song like this was lost. This Liang Shanbo is really pitiful. It's a pity he doesn't know Xian cultivation. Otherwise, this sort of family like Zhuing Tai's would be trying to curry favor him by offering their daughter. He is also really foolish to not discover that Zhuing Tai is a girl when they spent 3 years together. The most despicable person is still that Ma Wen Kai. Brother Moxie, since you knew of this matter, why didn't you kill that Ma Wen Kai? Why should that sort of scum be kept around? That's right. This sort of person truly deserves to die. All in all, Liang Shanbo and Zhuing Tai, this pair of unfortunate couple is the most pitiful. Thankfully they ultimately got to be together. I hope that the heavens will have pity and let them be husband and wife in all their future lives. Even Mei Shuayan was moved as she let out a long sigh. Moxie. Where did you hear this story from? It is really moving. I also heard of this story by chance. Not many people know of it. It should be something that happened in a very remote place, so it did not spread far. Jun Moxie stammered a reply. Guan Qinghan added. As it should be. We may be extremely upset hearing this story. But if this story reached the ears of the influential families, they would definitely criticize the butterfly lovers. In their eyes, the ones who are truly disgraceful are the butterfly lovers. It is a rarity for this story to have circulated. Jun Moxie was surprised. He had not expected Guan Qinghan to have this sort of cognition. However, what she said was the truth. Manor Lord Jun is truly impressive. Miao Xiao Miao looked at Jun Moxie. completely convinced. Your talent is comparable to my husband. You may be slightly inferior, but you've already surpassed plenty of others already. Jun Moxie did know whether to laugh or cry. This last truly had high regards of Mo Jun Xie. He had already brought the butterfly lovers out, and it was only comparable and slightly inferior. This was too depressing and awkward. This lass is still being stubborn. Debauchee discreetly clicked her tongue. All the other women had a contented look on their faces. Clearly they had all taken this song, transformation into butterflies, as their victory. It was obvious. This song was more moving than the song of the burial of flowers, and more touching as well. The only slight imperfection was that its lyrics were a little inferior, but it was not that far off. Debauchee was obviously satisfied. Sister Qing Han, have you recorded it already? From now on, we can only count on you to play it to hear it already. Debauchee called out. Why go through the trouble? Why not just have Manor Lord Jun sing it for you? Miao Xiao Miao tried to dug Jun Moxie's grave deeper. Him? TCH. This fellow is so lazy. Aside from when he is chasing skirts of those that he has yet to charm, or occasionally when he is forced into a corner like this today, trying to get him to do anything is even more difficult than trying to ascend to the heavens. I wouldn't dare to have that sort of luxurious hope. Debauchee grumbled. Then, Debauchee said mischievously, Sister Xiao Miao, let me tell you, all men are the same. That husband of yours may have written poems and composed songs for you. Hee. Now that you've caved in, I doubt he will compose any songs for you anymore. Only those that have yet to fall into their grasp are worth treasuring. No. Jun Xie is not that sort of person. Miao Xiao Miao replied confidently with a smile. Did you all think that he is the same as your unfaithful evil monarch? My Jun Xie is loving, devoted, and loyal. Ha ha ha. Upon hearing this, Debauchee, Kur and everyone else burst into giggles. Even Mei Shuiyan and Guan Qinghan couldn't help but break out into a smile. Seeing that Guan Qinghan was almost down recording things down, Mei Shuiyan said, All right, let us go outside while you guys stay here. Moxie, didn't you have something to speak to Miss Miao about? We shan't bother your discussion. Then all the women got up and left. Mei Shuiyan remembered to bring Qiaoying along with them. So instantly, only Jun Moxie and Miao Xiao Miao were left alone in the entire room. The women all had an odd look in their eyes when they were leaving, as if they were waiting for a joke to happen. The way Jun Moxie looked at Miao Xiao Miao was even more ambiguous. This sort of look had really left Miao Xiao Miao flustered and panicking. As the saying goes, you can't judge a person by his appearance. This Jun Moxie may look handsome, but Miao Xiao Miao knew nothing about how he was on the inside. If this person was truly like how Mo Wu Dao described, then what should she do? And in this moment where Miao Xiao Miao was stunned, the entire room was emptied, making Miao Xiao Miao even more flustered. Jun. Manor Lord Jun. Why you? What do you want to speak to me about? Can't it be said before all the other elder sisters? Miao Xiao Miao's panic was written all over her face. It looked like this lass had already made preparations to just run off anytime. As long as Jun Moxie made any action that went beyond his boundaries, this lass would probably dash her way out. At the very least, she would scream, "Help me!" Miao Xiao Miao could not be blamed for being this scared. It was truly because someone's image was a little too notorious. I only wish to have a chat. No need to be so nervous. Jun Moxie was also thinking. How should I breach the topic? I already have a husband. He loves me very much. And I also love him. I won't like anyone else. My husband has the legendary free and natural physique and is very amazing. Why don't you dare try anything? Upon hearing that he wanted to chat, Miao Xiao Miao felt even more afraid. It's our first meeting and you want to chat? What can I chat with you about? Cough cough. I know you already have a husband. Jun Moxie thought internally. Your husband is right in front of you, but you can't even recognize him. I say. Xiao Miao. You. Jun Moxie shook his hands helplessly. Shut up. Miao Xiao Miao has already exploded. She yelled with a cold look on her face. Manor Lord Jun. I respect you. But please don't go overboard. The evil monarch manor is powerful. But the misty illusory manor is definitely not to be messed with. Manor Lord Jun should be more careful when it comes to addressment. Addressing me as Xiao Miao is not something any random person can use. Her face was cold and stern. When facing this mighty evil monarch, she did not hold back and criticized him harshly. Actually, that Mo Jun Xie is also not that good. Let's not talk about his looks. He is merely a golden Xian. Is there a need to treat him like a treasure? Even if he has that legendary free and natural physique, it'll still take another 100 years for him to reach my current level. Look at me. Aren't I more powerful than him? If you don't believe, you can see for yourself. Jun Moxie said shamelessly with a grin. Manor Lord Jun, do you truly wish to trigger a war between the two sides? Miao Xiao Miao looked at him icily. Whether Mo Jun Xie is good or not, what has that got to do with you? Why should my husband be sullied by you like this? I only feel that Manor Lord Jun is too confident. In my eyes, you're nowhere near my Jun Xie. Jun Moxie was completely speechless. It was too awkward. There was no way to continue this conversation. Then, an idea struck him. He looked at the stern Miao Xiao Miao and said softly, after going through the heavenly tribulation, our bodies are so dirty. There is a small pond over there. Why don't we wash each other's backs? It was what Mo Jun Xie had said after Miao Xiao Miao underwent the tribulations. You lecher. Ah. You. Miao Xiao Miao subconsciously began to scold, but she immediately noticed something was wrong. She widened her eyes and looked at Jun Moxie. This sentence of washing each other's backs was something that she would never forget. Because after this sentence, her virginity was taken away by someone. Heaven as the chessboard. Stars as chess pieces. Who is able to play it? The land be the pipa. Path be the string. Who dares to play? Jun Moxie looked at Miao Xiao Miao and gave a gentle smile. Thunder as the battle drums. Lightning as the flags. Who dares to battle? Miao Xiao Miao's body shook violently as she almost fell to the ground, letting out some incoherent noises as her eyes filled with confusion. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1107. You're so cruel. The couplet of Heaven as the chessboard. Stars as chess pieces may have been circulated out from the misty illusory manor. But thunder as the battle drums. Lightning as the flags. Who dares to battle, was what Mo Jun Xie had said when the two of them were going through the heavenly tribulation. Only the two of them knows it. But Jun Moxie had recited it now. How did he know? Could it be that he... Silly lass. You still couldn't recognize me even until now? Jun Moxie smiled helplessly. Am I really that hard to recognize? Then, he rubbed his face a couple of times in front of Miao Xiao Miao. Slowly, his handsome appearance faded away and a plain, ordinary face appeared before Miao Xiao Miao. Mo Jun Xie. Miao Xiao Miao widened her eyes as she stumbled back. Panic in her eyes. You are Jun Xie? Jun Moxie chuckled bitterly and nodded his head as he replied softly. Xiao Miao. It's me. Miao Xiao Miao's body trembled as she fell to the ground. She fainted. Jun Moxie quickly caught her in his arms before she hit the ground. After a while, Miao Xiao Miao regained consciousness. But there was still a confused look in her eyes, as if she were in a dream. Suddenly seeing Mu Jun Xie's face before hers, she began to cry out. Jun Xie, did you know? I had a nightmare just now. I dreamt that evil monarch was lusting after me, and said things that only you and I know about. And not only that, he even turned into your appearance. I'm so scared. I am very scared. Jun Moxie let out a soft sigh and said gently. Silly lass. You're not dreaming. It is all real. It's real. It's real. It's real. Miao Xiao Miao looked at her lover with a dazed look in her eyes. Suddenly, she struggled out from his arms and slowly took a look at the surroundings. A look of confusion and daze on her face. She turned around and looked at the Jun Moxie who was still wearing Mo Jun Xie's face, staring intently at his face. She gritted her teeth and said, Jun Xie. You tell me this isn't real. Tell me. Jun Moxie closed his eyes in anguish and replied, Xiao Miao. This is reality. This is real. I have always been Jun Moxie. Mo Jun Xie is just one of my identities. A person who does not exist. No. It's not true. This is not real. This is impossible. You're lying to me. You're telling such lies so that you can get me. I will not believe you. I refuse to believe it. Miao Xiao Miao cried mournfully, staring at Jun Moxie. But she was slowly backing away as she shook her head agitatedly. Even so, her eyes betrayed her as tears began to well up in them. The truth is cruel, but it is always the truth. Suddenly, Miao Xiao Miao bumped into a chair behind her. With a bang, she fell onto the ground along with it. With Miao Xiao Miao's venerable cultivation, even if it were a cliff or a deadly trap behind her, it may not make her fall. But she had fallen in such a pathetic manner. It was obvious that her mind and heart were already in a frenzy. Xiao Miao. Jun Moxie reached his hand out in hopes of pulling her back up. Don't touch me. You evil person, you're not allowed to touch me. Miao Xiao Miao screamed with her might as she stubbornly picked herself off the ground. But her tears continued to fall like pearls as her petite body continued to tremble. You are Mo Jun Xie? Mo Jun Xie is Jun Moxie. Jun Moxie is my Mo Jun Xie. Miao Xiao Miao laughed bleakly as she looked at Jun Moxie, a trace of blood appearing at the corner of her lips. That flash of red completely shocked Jun Moxie. Yes, Xiao Miao. I did not intend to lie to you. I really am Mo Jun Xie. Jun Moxie tried to explain himself. He had already prepared himself mentally for this. But he had not imagined Miao Xiao Miao's reaction to be this great, to be this intense. Shut up. Miao Xiao Miao yelled angrily. You still don't wish to lie to me? Ha ha ha. She laughed bleakly. You didn't intend to lie to me? How were you planning to lie to me? You've already cheated me of everything. Your lies have taken everything. I have nothing left. Miao Xiao Miao's body quaked violently as she cried out with all her might. Everything I've had has all taken away by your lies. Did you really not know that? Were you truly unaware? What else do you want to cheat from me? I have nothing left. But that's good. I no longer have anything, which means I do not have to fear you trying to cheat me of anything anymore. Jun Moxie suddenly felt as if his heart was being ripped apart, but he had nothing to say for himself. Jun Yi. No. Jun Moxie. Did you know? How blissful I am before this. Miao Xiao Miao's tears flowed along her cheeks, along her lips and slowly dripped onto the ground. But she did not bother wiping it away, just letting it flow and mix with the blood on her mouth as they fall onto the ground. My Jun Yi, he is not powerful and looks ordinary, but he is the only person that I, Miao Xiao Miao, acknowledge. Miao Xiao Miao said sorrowfully. He is the person I love the most. Did you know that? Did you know? I was naive enough to think that he was also the person who loved me most. Turns out I was wrong. This was all a scam. It was a scam from head to tail. Did you know how proud I was of him? How content I was. It was my greatest bliss to have Jun Yi. Miao Xiao Miao lamented, a desolate look of happiness on her face. Jun Yi told me that he already had a wife, but I didn't mind that I can be a concubine for his sake. As long as I can be with Jun Yi, I do not mind anything. Jun Yi is gentle and has outstanding knowledge. The moment he appeared in the misty illusory manner, he created the greatest storm with the weakest cultivation. He is my pride. I am Mo Jun Ye's wife. I am his woman. Even if he is of lowly status, I am willing. The heavens are our blanket, and the earth is our bed, the wind are the delicacies, and the rain is our wine, the clouds are our wedding decoration, and the mist our witness, the thunder shall be our betrothal gifts, and the lightning the matchmaker. I, Miao Xiao Miao, exchanged vows. Miao Xiao Miao chuckled desolately. I presented my body, my feelings, my soul, my everything to the person I love the most. If there is Mo Jun Yi, Miao Xiao Miao is just an empty shell. Miao Xiao Miao's face and voice suddenly turned expressionless. And today, you are telling me that Mo Jun Yi has never existed in this world. Everything was made up. They had never existed. The free and natural physique is imaginary. Mo Jun Yi is imaginary. Miao Xiao Miao said sorrowfully. Jun Moxie, how can you be this cruel? You've destroyed my dreams. You've destroyed my everything. You're so cruel. Why must you do this to me? Since you've already lied to me, why don't you continue lying to me? I would rather not know of it forever. Even if Jun Yi doesn't return, he will forever exist in my heart. Why must you be this cruel? Must you expose this scam and destroy my hopes? You're so cruel. You really are cruel. Miao Xiao Miao said, as her voice slowly became weak. Xiao Miao. The Mo Jun Yi in the misty illusory manner, aside from his identity being false, his knowledge, his brains, everything about him is real. That is another me. That is real. Ah. Jun Moxie said softly. Today, I'm giving you the most genuine and real version of me. Is it no good? Not good. I only love Mo Jun Yi. It has always been Mo Jun Yi. And not Jun Moxie. Miao Xiao Miao looked at him tearfully. It's you. You killed my Jun Yi. It's you who had made my Jun Yi disappear forever. Miao Xiao Miao's beautifully sorrowful face suddenly turned to one that was filled with resentment. Jun Moxie, evil monarch. Do you feel accomplished? Toying with a woman like this? Watching a woman's hopes rise, fork out her feelings, virginity, devotion, loyalty, and everything, then crushing it all with your own hands, turning it all into powder. With a turn of your palms, you send this woman to eternal death. That sort of feeling of being in absolute control of everything. Was it thrilling? Is it? She walked forward, step by step, but she did not blink despite the tears in her eyes. A mournful expression on her face. Enough. Xiao Miao, don't misunderstand my words. Can you calm down? Can you listen to my explanation? Jun Moxie said in distress. Explain? Fine. I'm waiting for your explanation. If the evil monarch wishes to speak, who dares to refuse? Miao Xiao Miao glared at him. Since you want to explain, I will listen to your explanation. But, before that, can you please stop insulting my Jun Yi? Don't let the appearance of my most beloved person be hung on the face of a liar like you. Change it. Change it off. Jun Moxie sighed and removed his disguise of Mo Jun Yi and returned to his original appearance. Miao Xiao Miao stared at him. Watched that face that belonged to Mo Jun Yi slowly fade away from his face. She was so focused, watching so intently, so reluctant, but so utterly despairing. It was the immense despair of watching her lover leave with her own eyes, but she could do nothing about it. A hopeless despair. Along with the gradual disappearance of Mo Jun Ye's face from Jun Moxie's face, her eyes also gradually lost their shine, and turned lifeless and empty. Jun Yi, don't go. Miao Xiao Miao cried as she stepped forward, trembling. She stretched her hand out weakly towards Jun Moxie's face, her voice full of despair. And as she called out this name, it sounded more like the sound of her heart shattering. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1108. You're not my lover. Xiao Miao. I'm here. Jun Moxie's body jolted as he grabbed her hand. Do not touch me. You're not worthy of this name. You liar. Miao Xiao Miao shook his hand off forcefully and cleaned it on her clothes. Then she lowered her head and remained still, until her body stopped trembling. She waited till she stopped trembling before taking 2 deep breaths. Then, Miao Xiao Miao raised her head and looked at Jun Moxie. She smiled and said, Manor Lord Jun, didn't you want to explain? I'm listening to your explanation. Her voice had turned extremely calm. But this calmness was as still as death. Jun Moxie felt his heart ache. Miao Xiao Miao may look deathly pale and may be smiling, but there was a dull look in her eyes. With the current circumstances, no matter how he explained, she would not listen to any of it. Jun Moxie sighed internally and only felt his heart ache. Xiao Miao. The situation was like this, since I started cultivating Xian skills. I began to break through at unimaginable speed. I was already a saint emperor within a few years' time. Jun Moxie knew that explaining was useless. But right now, he couldn't not explain himself. As someone who led 2 lifetimes, he had never felt this guilty. And had never felt that it was this difficult to say something. When one has significant cultivation, their longevity will naturally be prolonged. But Xiao Yi, Qing Han, and the rest always followed me devotedly. but their problem before us was that. Jun Moxie let out a long sigh. I may still be able to maintain my appearance for hundreds and thousands of years without aging, and so can Shui Yan. But everyone else was destined to not be able to do so, because their cultivation would not reach that sort of level. Or rather to say, no one is capable of this. Xian cultivation can only increase one's lifespan, but it is unable to maintain one's youthful appearance. Even if they cultivate to a Saint Emperor's level like us, they are still subjected to the mercy of time. This problem may not be an issue to us, men, but for women it is. Shui Yan and I am able to not age due to reasons. Jun Moxie skimped on the details of this part. To a woman, if they see that their lover and their sister is able to keep their youthful appearance and never age while they have to age along with time, that is undoubtedly an extremely cruel thing. I did not wish to see them getting hurt in the future and do not wish to lose them, they're my women, so I naturally will want to protect them to the greatest of my abilities. Jun Moxie said. But there is only one way to resolve the aging of one's looks and boost one's cultivation greatly. That is to consume both the exquisite lotus and 7-colored holy fruit at the same time. Aside from this, there is no other way. And so you set your mind on Heaven Saint Palace and Misty Illusory Manor? For your lovers? Miao Xiao Miao said apathetically. That is the case. In Chrysanthemum City, I battled with the 3 holy lands, and the stakes were the exquisite lotus. In the end, they lost. So I went to Heaven Saint Palace according to the bet and obtained the exquisite lotus. And you experienced the effects of the exquisite lotus I've cultivated earlier. As to the 7-colored holy fruit, it was even more difficult to obtain. The first challenge was that I had no way to enter the Misty Illusory Manor. So, when I was in Chrysanthemum City, I left a hint of the free and natural physique beforehand. Then, you made us of your so-called free and natural physique to cheat Chao Guofeng's trust. Then set up obstructions along the way so that they would do everything to bring you into Misty Illusory Manor. Miao Xiao Miao laughed coldly. Evil monarch. Truly a great scheme. Everyone is toyed in your palms. Before this, I've only heard of the saying to produce clouds with one turn of the hand and rain with another. But great manor lord, you have truly let this lass witness the true meaning of this saying. Indeed. I finally got what I wished for and entered Misty Illusory Manor. My original intention was to silently steal the 7-colored holy fruit the moment I found it and leave. After I obtained it, Monarch Jun Xie would completely disappear. No one will see the rainbow holy tree that I obtained, so no one will suspect me of it. Jun Moxie no longer tried to conceal anything. He just spilled it all out. But you had never expected that the rainbow holy tree does not exist within the Misty Illusory Manor, but in another independent dimension. So you came up with another plot and set your mind on me? Miao Xiao Miao chuckled coldly. But I have to say, a silly lass like me is truly too easy to deceive. No wonder you would set your aim on me. The facts have proven it. You've succeeded. Your scheme is completely flawless. That is not true. Jun Moxie said angrily. From start to finish, I never thought of making use of you. Since I entered Misty Illusory Manor, to Gu Fei use provocation, then the challenge by the brothers of the Zhan family. Xiao Miao, when have I made use of you? Manor Lord Jun, please don't call me Xiao Miao. Miao Xiao Miao snapped angrily. This is an addressment that only my closest kin have the right to use. You're not worthy. You do not have this right. Jun Moxie took a deep breath. Fine. I shall not call you that. After I've understood the situation, I did everything I could to gain the quota for entering the spiritual herbal gardens. The objective of the battle with the Zhan family was also for this. I never tried to take advantage of your quota. You wouldn't deny this. Would you? Miao Xiao Miao lifeless eyes turned away as she slowly nodded. It is just that the ways of the world are too peculiar, and plans will never be faster than changes. When the Zhan family was defeated, in their unwillingness to admit their defeat, they tried to get rid of me. But you risked your life to save me. I am grateful for it. But I had also made up my mind to maintain a distance from you. Because this sort of feeling, I am unable to carry it. I knew that if I had embarked on this relationship with you, when the truth was revealed, it would only end up like today. I was afraid to take it, and am unable to carry it. So when you came to find me, I intentionally brought it up that I had a wife to reject you. Jun Moxie squeezed his eyes shut. I really did not wish to hurt you. But you are too deeply in love. More than I imagined. To fall completely unconscious upon returning home that day. Jun Moxie breathed out in pain. Your love, your determination, forced me into a path of no return. I couldn't just stand by and watch you fall into eternal slumber. So I chose to save you. I am indeed the evil monarch, with powerful forces and strength. But ultimately, I'm only a man. A gentle, gorgeous and talented beauty like you who is so devotedly in love with me. How could I not be moved? How could I not feel anything? When I made the decision to save you, I treated you as my woman. My Jun Moxie's woman. You may not know, but my mother, due to my father's unexpected death back then, in her extreme grief, also fell into a deep sleep like you, and she remained asleep for 10 whole years, and would rather remain in her dreams than wake up. My mother's pain and love made me realize that I must not let the same tragedy fall upon you. So no matter what I have to face, I had to wake you up and keep you by my side. Jun Moxie looked at her firmly and said, and give you happiness. Since I have made my decision, I will no longer hesitate or even regret. From that moment on, I never tried to run away with regards to our feelings. Even when I left, until now, my feelings towards you are genuine. Is Manor Lord Jun done talking? Miao Xiao Miao gave an apathetic smile and coldly said, N? Are you done with your explanation? Jun Moxie knew that she did not listen to much of what he said. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Perhaps it is just as you said. Whatever you've done has a reason that leaves you without a choice. You're good to your wives. For their sake. You can do anything. You can use all sorts of methods just for them to remain eternally young. This is something you should do as a man. As a husband. I understand. And do not blame you for it. But did it ever occur to you about how many people you've affected with your actions? In the misty illusory manner, Chao Guofeng and the other saint emperors. They placed all their hopes on you. They treat you even more dearly than their own children, yet you have deceived them. From start to end, through and through, you lied to them. And the elders of the misty illusory manor. They all viewed you as the hope of the misty illusory manor. They completely chose to support you. And you also deceived all of them. As to me, you don't need to feel guilty. You did not deceive me. Miao Xiao Miao laughed desolately. I am not trying to be sarcastic. I am speaking from my heart. My husband is Mo Jun Xie. He did not lie to me. And he treats me very well. He really did. I am his wife. His woman. It is just that. He no longer exists anymore. Mo Jun Xie still exists. I am Mo Jun Xie. Jun Moxie yelled. No, you're not. Miao Xiao Miao looked at Jun Moxie with clear eyes. You're Jun Moxie. You are only Jun Moxie and not my Mo Jun Xie. Although he is just one of your identities. But you cannot replace him. He was born because of you and ceased to exist because of you. No. How can my Jun Xie be gone? He will live on forever in my heart. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1109. I don't owe you. Jun Moxie was feeling completely drained of strength at this point. What do you want me to do before you can accept this fact? Just say it. As long as you can say it, I will be able to do it. I will definitely do it. Jun Moxie said in a low voice. Really? Then, I want my Jun Xie back. I want my husband back. That's the only thing that I want. Miao Xiao Miao screamed with all her might. Return Jun Xie to me. Return me my heart. Return it to me. I want my Jun Xie back. I want my husband back. I want my man back. I want to grow old with him. I want to bear children for him. I want to stay with him forever. Never parting with him. Miao Xiao Miao cried and sobbed heavily. Suddenly rushing up, she grabbed Jun Moxie by the collar and roared in his face. Liar! Return my Jun Xie to me now. Return me my happiness. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. She rained her little fists on him repeatedly as tears flowed endlessly down her face, carrying her pain and her despair. Jun Moxie stood there unmovingly, each blow feeling as if his heart was being cut by 1,000 knives. Even for a person like him who'd lived 2 lives, he had never felt such a terrible feeling before. He finally understood now. Previously, he thought that he was Mo Jun Xie, and Mo Jun Xie was simply another part of his identity. As long as the 2 identities were merged back together, everything would be settled. But now, he knew that this was not true. Because the man that Miao Xiao Miao loved was Mo Jun Xie, not Jun Moxie. It had never been him. Mo Jun Xie and Jun Moxie were 2 completely different people. They had different personalities, different identities, different looks, and different bearings. The heart of a woman was just like that, since she already had a Mo Jun Xie in her heart. She would naturally be unable to bear a Jun Moxie. To suddenly tell her that the 2 people were actually the same person. Perhaps it would be easy for outsiders to accept it, and some people would even find it to not be a big deal. But for the person involved, it was a completely different concept. Accepting Mo Jun Xie was the equivalent of accepting Jun Moxie. No. That was not the same thing. That was like turning one's back on one's lover and go with another. Although putting it like that was somewhat overboard, but it was undoubtedly the truth. If it were Mei Shuiyan, Guan Qinghan, or the others, if someone told them that the Jun Moxie they loved had actually never existed, and the real person was actually Mo Jun Xie, they would also be unable to accept it. Miao Xiao Miao was undoubtedly a very traditional girl. She was soft on the outside and hard on the inside. She could be as gentle as water and as fierce as fire at the same time. She definitely could not accept that her sacred love was actually stepped on like that. She was also unable to accept that the lover in her heart had transformed into a completely different person. Using a very unsuitable analogy, one could imagine that a girl was dating Wang Fei Hung 1, but she was suddenly told that she was marrying Jet Li 1. Was that possible? Even though everyone on Earth knew that the character Wang Fei Hung was played by Jet Li. This was an impossible knot to loose. Meow Xiao Meow cried pitifully, until her entire body was completely bereft of strength. Laying on the table, she passed out again. Even as she slept and dreamt, her body twitched from time to time and tears continued flowing from her eyes. To a frail and tender girl like her, this was a huge blow that she could not endure. Jun Moxie looked at Meow Xiao Meow sobbing in her sleep. And he only felt as if his heart was being torn apart piece by piece. A moment later, a sound came from the door, and Mei Shuayan walked in lightly. Looking at Jun Moxie, she shook her head lightly. She cannot accept it. Jun Moxie nodded bitterly and sighed heavily. Isn't this a trouble you caused? Mei Shuayan sighed and looked at Meow Xiao Meow. This is a good girl, you must not let her down. Jun Moxie stood up slowly and shook his head in a troubled manner. How am I trying to let her down? It's just. Shuayan, tell me, what should I do about this matter? Do what you have to do. Mei Shuayan rolled her eyes at him. I just never imagined that even after so many things you'd done with her, it's still not enough to. After saying that, she sighed heavily again. When Meow Xiao Meow first came here, Mei Shuayan had already discussed this matter with Guan Qinghan. The both of them placed themselves in Meow Xiao Meow's shoes and tried to imagine them in her position. But the more they thought about it, the more complicated this matter seemed. When they saw for themselves how much Meow Xiao Meow loved and protected Mo Jun Xie, they felt even worse. This girl had obviously fallen so deeply in love with Jun Moxie's other identity that it was ingrained into her very bones. Thus, Mei Shuayan had gathered the other girls to put on a show where they were jealous of her, to make things difficult for Jun Moxie. They wanted Jun Moxie to showcase his talents, slowly reconciling the image of Mo Jun Xie in her heart with his real identity. Debauchee was also there to put in subtle hints for her to pick up. It was better if Meow Xiao Meow could figure the situation out herself and slowly come to terms with it in her heart. If Meow Xiao Meow had even the slightest bit of suspicion that Mo Jun Xie was possibly Jun Moxie, it might have been a bit easier for her to accept the situation when the truth was revealed. The girls would all join in and create a light atmosphere, hopefully easing her into the same mindset as them. But who would have thought that Meow Xiao Meow would have complete and utter trust in Mo Jun Xie, to the point where did not hold even the slightest bit of suspicion in her heart. The show that the girls had taken such painstaking effort to put on had only achieved a bit of self-entertainment. In the end, it still came down to having Jun Moxie reveal the truth himself, in order to not let her feel awkward. Mei Shuayan had even chased Debauchee and the other curious little lasses far away, and under the supervision of Guan Qinghan. But seeing how things had turned out on this side, Mei Shuayan also felt somewhat helpless. This was simply too difficult. I'm afraid this matter is extremely difficult to resolve. At least, it's very difficult for the time being. Mei Shuayan looked gently at Meow Xiao Meow and sighed. Right now, she already hates you to the bone. To use a more extreme example, her current situation would be like if we suddenly received news that you had been killed. It's completely impossible to accept and likely even more serious than that. After all, in that situation, we could still direct our hatred into revenge on your enemies. However, she doesn't even have a target to direct her hatred at. You have destroyed her Jun Xie and shattered the love in her heart. You are her greatest enemy. But although Jun Moxie is not Mo Jun Xie, Mo Jun Xie is ultimately still Jun Moxie. She cannot take revenge against the man that she loves the most and cannot even face the truth. If I were her, I would be at an utter loss as well. The only thing you can do now is to wait patiently. Only when she thinks things through on her own can there be a way to resolve the problem. Give her a little more time. Right now, anything you do will only have the opposite effect. But how long must I wait? I'm worried that she will fall into a coma again like the last time. Jun Moxie sighed. If you only wait. It might be that nothing would change even if the heavens grow old and the earth passes away. If you don't wish to leave any regrets in your heart, you need to try your best to change her. From her deep love for Mo Jun Xie to a deep love for Jun Moxie. Letting your true identity completely eclipse your false identity. Mei Shuayan turned her body away and said in a light voice. This is a very long and difficult process. She is an extremely stubborn and strong girl, and to make her change her heart is difficult. It is destined to be exceedingly difficult. But no matter how difficult it is, it remains your responsibility. A responsibility that you cannot avoid. You must do it. Mei Shuayan said heavily. Yes. That is my responsibility to her. I have to do it. And I have to do it well. Jun Moxie's eyes grew resolute. Go on then. Win this last back right from the start again. If Mo Jun Xie could do it, why can't the evil monarch do it? Don't forget. You have a huge advantage. That is, she's already your woman. This matter is difficult to say, and difficult to do. However, there's still a surefire shortcut. Mei Shuayan's voice carried a hint of jealousy as she pouted. Miao Xiao Miao is already your woman, but I, the main wife in name, am still a complete virgin. Furthermore, I still have to help him think of ways to woo and obtain the heart of another woman. What shortcut? Jun Moxie asked anxiously. How did a person who's so intelligent normally suddenly turn dumb in a moment like this? I've said just now that Mo Jun Xie is Jun Moxie, but Jun Moxie is not Mo Jun Xie. There's no need to ask her to change her heart that much, discarding Mo Jun Xie away to jump into your arms. You just need to let her understand that the person who made an oath with her was also you, Jun Moxie. And that the two of you were actually the same person. Do you still need me to make this kind of thing so clear for you? Mei Shuayan snorted. You should go and grasp this bit properly yourself. Jun Moxie cocked his head, seemingly having some thoughts of his own. I'll take her to rest first. As for the misty illusory manners side, settle it yourself. Mei Shuayan rolled her eyes unkindly at him. Young Master Jun seemed to have suddenly grown clever as he chuckled. Shuayan, are you unhappy in your heart? Seeing her already doing that with me, while you haven't done that, Kiki. If you weren't so conservative and agreed earlier, wouldn't we have already done this and that long ago? Perhaps right now, we might even have that already, as well. This fellow was truly strange. He didn't know how to handle Miao Xiao Miao and Dugu Xiao Yi, but towards the one that was supposedly the hardest to handle, Mei Shuayan, he had all kinds of skills. Scram! What nonsense are you talking about? This and that, aren't you worried about little sister Miao anymore? Mei Shuayan's face instantly turned completely red. From the looks of it, young Master Jun was only trying to look for some joy in the midst of bitterness. Shrinking his head back, he sighed. Mei Shuayan carried Miao Xiao Miao up gently and suddenly gasped. This lass is truly staunch with moral integrity. Why is she so hard on herself? Although it is true that Jun Moxie is not Mo Jun Xie, but Mo Jun Xie is still Jun Moxie. Is there a need to be so stubborn? Jun Wuyi turned around with shock and saw that there was a large pool of blood on the table where Miao Xiao Miao had laid on. This was definitely not blood that was spat out unconsciously due to pain, but a violent expulsion of blood using her xian qi. Mei Shuayan sighed and carried Miao Xiao Miao up, only to hear her mumbling in her sleep. I only want my Junyi. I don't want you. I don't owe you anything, the exquisite lotus that you've given me. I'll spit it out. I don't owe you anything. This girl was actually unyielding to such an extent. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 1110. I'll take my anger out on you all. Jun Moxie felt a tremendous pain in his heart, as if the heavens and the ocean were flipping over. Even with Jun Moxie's strong will, he could not help but clutch his chest and collapse back onto the chair. Miao Xiao Miao's words were like an unstoppable bolt of lightning, piercing deeply into his heart. They also seemed to carry the might of lightning as they blasted against his insides. Jun Moxie sat stiffly on the chair, not moving at all. Miao Xiao Miao. This love-struck girl whom he had rejected originally and whom he accepted and loved in the end, had truly impacted him in this moment. The selfless sacrificial love she had shown in the misty illusory manner when he had been attacked, and the heartbreak when he'd rejected her, who sank into an unconscious state because of his rejection, and her, who tried to protect him from the heavenly tribulation. Even when she was face to face with the evil monarch who shook the entire world, she still did not hesitate to stand by the man she loved, refusing to say even half a word that was bad about him. She did not waver, even in the slightest. It was as if in this lifetime, there was only Mo Junyi for her. That was all. This heart of hers was undoubtedly extreme, but it was extreme enough to shake a person's soul to the core. Jun Moxie, who had lived 2 lives and transmigrated to Xian continent, had always had a rather smooth sailing journey all along. Even when he met any difficulties, he'd always managed to safely tide through them using his wits and his strength. But the difficult question today was not something he could fix no matter how clever or how domineering his cultivation was. The amazing Jun Moxie was completely helpless at this moment. Although Mei Shuayan had given him a probable direction to work towards, it was still easier said than done. No matter how perfect something sounded on paper, it was still unexecuted yet. It could very well just be wishful thinking on his own part. Before this, he had indeed thought that after he revealed his true identity to her, she may be unhappy for a moment, but she would still come to accept him because of their love. However, he had still neglected the understanding that the one she loved was Mo Junyi, not Jun Moxie. After the truth was revealed, Jun Moxie only became the person who destroyed her love, and the murderer of her husband. Although saying that was a little too much, but it was indeed not far from her current feelings. Jun Moxie sighed helplessly, watched as Mei Shuayan carried Miao Xiao Miao away. Standing up, he walked to the window and lingered for a long moment before giving a low command. Check how the banquet downstairs is proceeding. If everything is almost done, invite the misty illusory manners 3 seniors Miao Zhan, Miao Dao and Miao Jian up. Quite clearly, Jun Moxie had decided to put an end to this matter in the evil monarch manner. Before his sentence was finished, a report rang out from the outside. Reporting to Manor Lord, the 3 palace lords of the 3 holy lands are in the guest hall, and they seek the audience of Manor Lord, citing that they have important matters to discuss. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows lightly and after a slight pause, he replied, "In that case, tell them to wait there. I'll be along shortly." Although Jun Moxie wanted to reveal the matter to Miao Zhan and the others, the short consideration just made him calm down. The current situation could be said to be very awkward. if he made contact with the 3 seniors of the Miao family earlier, then while the 3 of them would undoubtedly be angry about the matter of him infiltrating into the misty illusory manor in disguise, they would definitely not make things difficult for him if he could show enough sincerity and promise to give Miao Xiao Miao the proper status and position by his side. To Miao Xiao Miao, Mo Junyi had already disappeared completely because of Jun Moxie. But to the Miao family, or even the rest of the misty illusory manor, Mo Junyi and Jun Moxie were just 2 different names. As long as it was still the same person, there would be no problems. This was the reality of the large factions, clans, and families. If Jun Moxie chose to conduct the matters in that way, everything would certainly develop very smoothly. There wouldn't even be anything out of place because of it at all. But for this method, the only thing that would be lost was Miao Xiao Miao herself. She would have to bear the heartache of being lied to by her most beloved, and at the same time, face the pain of being sold out by her own family. To the family, even though Miao Xiao Miao was the Miao family's darling daughter, she was far from being as valuable as an ally like the evil Monarch Manor. But Jun Moxie's feelings towards Miao Xiao Miao were real, and there was no way he could face his woman in that way. Thus, he'd chosen to tell her the truth first. The result was the scene of tragedy before his eyes. If the 3 old fellows of the Miao family came to know about Miao Xiao Miao's current state, they would certainly not be polite with him. And with his own emotions being so unstable right now, it was unavoidable for him to be in an irritable mood. If an argument arose between the 2 sides, it would instead cause the current bad situation to worsen further. Meeting the 3 Holy Lands' people first and taking the chance to let off some steam was also not a bad idea. Soon, young Master Jun came into the small guest hall. Only 3 people were sitting there. Mo Wu Dao, Shi Ruo Chen, and Huyen Ao Bo. To the current Jun Moxie, the cultivation level of any of these 3 palace lords were not considered very high. Even if these 3 joined hands against him, Jun Moxie still had absolute confidence of crushing them with a single strike. The fact that they had enough guts to dismiss their guards and sit here facing him alone was already a great demonstration of sincerity. This was undoubtedly a type of gesture. This was the evil Monarch Manor, and it was also their grand opening day. They trusted that Jun Moxie, this evil monarch, would not dare to do anything to them. But if they were in their own territories, even if it were in the headquarters of the 3 Holy Lands, they would not be so sure. To have courage in the opponent's territory, and yet no faith in their own territory, one had to say that this was an incredibly strange concept. Manor Lord Jun is indeed a young hero of a generation. In just 1 short year, you'd already changed a regular aristocratic family that was struggling to stay afloat to such a grand state where the world would tremble with every step you take. Although we belong to opposing factions, I still have to admit my admiration. Mo Wu Dao laughed aloud and said, "If it were me, I could never emulate such a level of success." This was already a very sincere praise that came from his heart. With his status, for him to say such words right from the start meant that this conversation was bound to have a pleasant start. But unfortunately for him, the timing that he had chosen to say these words were too coincidental. Young Master Jun already had a bellyful of anger with nowhere to vent and was in an incredibly bad mood. Rolling his eyes, he chuckled coldly. "You naturally would not be able to emulate it. Because you are Mo Wu Dao, and I am Jun Moxie. You do not have the qualifications to compare yourself with me, but it's good that you at least know your own inferiority." The moment this exceedingly abrasive words came out, Mo Wu Dao nearly spat out a mouthful of blood in anger. He had been awaiting Jun Moxie's reply with a full smile hanging on his face from ear to ear. As the saying goes, one would receive a peach in return if one hands out a pear. Mo Wudao felt that he had already spoken humbly enough and was expecting Jun Moxie to return the gesture before bringing the topic to the correct path. Who would have thought that the reply would be so rude? From the looks of it, Mo Wudao had failed to kiss up to the horse's ass and had instead planted his kiss on the back of the horse's leg, receiving a vicious kick in the face as a result. There was naturally no need to describe the bitter feeling in his heart. Manor Lord Jun. The three of us traveled such a long way, not just to celebrate the opening of your evil monarch manor. Shiruochen furrowed his brows and said. This sentence was undoubtedly saying that they could have sent any random person if it were just to participate in the opening ceremony. There was no need for the three of them to come in person. And the truth was as such as well. Oh. So the three of you did not come specially to offer your congratulations? So it was this seat who had been thinking wishfully. Then, I wonder what you are here for. Could it be that you're here to look for a wife? Jun Moxie's reply had gotten even thornier. The two sides were enemies by right, and there was no possibility of that enmity being resolved. So why should Jun Moxie make things easy for them? Not to mention that he had a belly full of anger. Even if he weren't in a bad mood, he would not be polite with them. This is Tianfa Forest. So I wonder if the three of you set your eyes on the monkeys or the bears. If you are embarrassed and too shy to speak, I'm still willing to be the matchmaker for you. Taking into account that the three of you came from afar to congratulate the opening of my manor, I'm willing to help you. Even though my status is high, there's no need to worry. I'm quite easy to talk to. Seeing him come out like a mad dog biting at everyone he saw, the three of them were incredibly enraged. They had truly never seen a lord of an area acting like this. Without even the slightest demeanor of a proper leader. It was as if they were dealing with an untamed hooligan. The only thing to be thankful about was that there were only the four of them present there. If it was in that reception hall earlier, the three of them would have turned into laughing stocks, with nowhere to put their faces. Who knew how the jokes about them coming to Tianfa to look for a wife would be spun in the outside world? The three of them knew that if they continued bickering in this direction, it would directly result in a huge, all-out brawl. Huyen Ao scowled and snorted fiercely. Manor Lord Jun. The three of us came here this time for the sake of the peace of the Xian continent and the people. This conversation will determine the fate of the entire land. To deal with the war for seizing the heavens, we need to be of one heart and combine our strengths to pass through this difficult stage. As for the personal enmity between our factions, it wouldn't be too late to put them until after the war for seizing the heavens. With the fate of the whole world in front of us, personal grievances can always wait. Xian continent? All the lives and the people in this world? What does that have anything to do with me? Jun Moxie rolled his eyes and asked in an impolite manner. How is this daddy not part of the people of this world? But when this daddy was being suppressed and pursued all over the world while my family faced death and destruction, why didn't you righteous people step out to protect the people of this world? And now, this daddy's faction has grown strong, and you want me to go and fight and sacrifice for the peace and stability of the people? This daddy actually has such a duty. The world? What has the world done for me? Why must I serve the world? This story will be continued to chapter 1111. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.